Well, let's crisscross to the northeast region, where we hear that 5 miners have lost their lives, and there's a plethora of stories that we can link to that situation. We're joined by our correspondent Ilyasu Tanko. We'll also shortly be engaging Yidana Zakari, who is the Northeast Regional Minister. Let me just salute the Regional Minister before I come to Ilyasu for some updates. Mr. Zakari, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you so much for your patience and joining the conversation. I'll be with you shortly, but let's get some updates from Ilyasu Tanko. Ilyasu, what's the latest you can report on this happening?
Well, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Ilyasu.
Yes, so what we are learning is that these miners' disease have been retrieved, their bodies have been retrieved, and they have since been buried in accordance with the tenets of Islam. And what we are learning also is that authorities are struggling or are racing to get to this particular community to ensure that, those that are there, they get them out of the place. Already, this is a very dangerous zone that the authorities in the Northeast region have been working hard to get the people stay out of this particular place. Last year, there was a lot of miners in there, but the regional minister with the police commander stormed that particular place and chased these people out there. And since then, it has been partially empty. Even though people sneak to that particular area to engage in mining, it has not been regular as it used to be. And so this comes to as a surprise to the authorities who have thought that they have got the people out of the place. But as I speak to you now, the place is very calm, but people in the Nangrumah community continue to mourn the loss of these 5 people.
Tell me about the reaction of community members. Yes, you say they are mourning, but we also know that this was an illegal mining pit used formerly by some Chinese, abandoned, and then these nationals, Ghanaian nationals, went there to, so to speak, scoop floodwaters, and then they got trapped themselves. But how has the community been reacting to the demise of these 5?
Nangrumah is one of the impoverished communities in the Northeast region here. And we used to have a lot of people coming in from Burkina Faso and Cote d'Ivoire to engage in mine in that particular area. But like I said, because of the economic condition, many youth in that area tend to engage in these illegal activities. And that has been their main source of livelihood, even aside from farming that they engage in that particular area. And so this has brought some fears to the young guys there who see this as their only or main source of livelihood. And some of them are really confused. Yesterday, I spoke to a gentleman who has been engaging in illegal mining or illegal mining in this particular community. And he told me that since the incident happened, there has been fears, and he's planning to move to the southern area to still engage in this particular activity. So yes, even though people are mourning in their community, but the youth are also worried about their source of livelihood.
Ilyasu, I would have said, you could take leave of us, but just hold, because there may be developments that you may need to add some thoughts to. But let me engage Yidana Zakari, Northeast Regional Minister. How did you receive news of these 5 within your region losing their lives in this painful manner?
Thank you for the opportunity. The news came to me very sad and shocking, because these are young men in their early 20s who, by circumstances, have had to depart this world in such a painful situation. I think all of us in the region are sad to hear that. It's a big loss, because they are married, they have children. So who takes care of these orphans left behind? That said and done, we as I spoke to you yesterday, and Ilyasu in his presentation also stated that we met the community people, not once, not twice. We engage them in a friendly manner, encouraging them to form groups so that we can get community mining licenses for them. When that happens, they will now operate under the supervision of the Minerals Commission. In doing so, what has happened would probably not have happened. Because the mining pit we are referring to, I wouldn't even describe it as a deep crater. It's so deep. When you go there and you take a look at it, you get worried about what the Chinese did to the environment. And we ask the people to stay off completely from that area. And let us see how we can legitimize their operation. But I even thought that with the rains in the north, this time it wouldn't have been suitable for anybody to attempt to go into that crater. If you go there, it will be a sea of water. Unfortunately, because people want to have their livelihoods, I think that is the temptation that caused this problem. So we are mourning. But what we need to do at this material moment would be to put in place strategies to avert any future occurrences. Well, not until we take appropriate action. This may not stop because the illegal miners will do things just to avoid being seen. Some go there even in the night when nobody is around. So if you have people patrolling in the daytime, in the night, they will have to withdraw to their home. And they will go there and to be a beehive of activity in the night. And I just think that I've asked the district chief executive, we are moving in to the community. This time it's not accessible because of the rain, but we will try as much as possible to reach out to them, engage the chiefs and leadership to try to see what we can do in the midst of all the circumstances that we are facing.
All right. Talking about, we'll get to what you're going to do subsequently, but you mentioned three things that piqued my interest. One, that some of them go there under the cover of darkness. Two, that you were thinking that this being the rainy season, people wouldn't attempt going there. And thirdly, that you are, in a very friendly, convivial manner, spoken to members of the community and urged them to stay off. But the point, Mr. Minister, is that if you hadn't put in place the right measures to prevent people from going there, they would find some of these opportunities, like you rightly said, at night and still want to go there. Is that something that, on hindsight, you regret?
Yes, much as I have my regrets, I would want to let listeners understand that if you talk of the Nangrumah community, where the people are in the community, is the same place that we have the mine. They have settled there over several centuries. And little did they even know that that is a gold mine. So it is not like they moved to a distant place to do the mining and come back. It is right within the community where the people have their houses. So sneaking out in the night is that easy. That is the first leg of it. Now the second, we explain to them the dangers, not only in terms of the mines, but also the chemicals that they use. It would be a danger to their personal health and the environment. And they need authorities who understand the workings of these to educate them so that they can do safe mining. That is the second. And the third, friendly, because if you appear intimidated, they will run away. You won't even get to meet them. So when we went there with the police, the understanding was that we were not coming to arrest anybody. We were not coming to intimidate. Come around and let's talk. We will let you go through appropriate steps so that we get you supported to obtain mining licenses. So that is the angle from which we were coming. Well, if you intimidate people and scare them, it becomes very difficult to engage them. It's a legal thing to do if you obtain a community mining license. You do so without fear. you do so without any hindrance. And so for us at the political level, we thought that this is the path to pursue. And I still think that even with all that has happened, we will need to engage the people to do what is deemed right within the ambit of the law.
Speaking of which, were you aware that these Chinese, whom you say had dug this, very deep tunnel into the earth, the belly of the earth, so to speak, were you aware of their operations in the past?
At the time that I took over office as minister, it was the same time that the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources and to a large extent, His Excellency the President, this whole agenda of trying to stop illegal mining. That was when actually we pursued it. And so that came to my attention. And so before even we got to the mine, the Chinese had actually deserted the place. And no attempt was made by them to try to cover these holes. They left the gaping holes, very dangerous holes, and they vanished. So when we got there, it took us by surprise how they were able to have the time to do all that without the attention of authorities. But they did so in the bush. But I believe that the local people somehow knew about the presence of the Chinese. But maybe somehow they were also laborers that they employed. They were beneficiaries of these the negative practices. And so maybe that didn't allow people to communicate. But certainly when you visit the place, you are so worried. And no serious person in this country will endorse what the Chinese people did to our environment.
And while, I wholly agree with you that no one in his right mind would endorse this, we allowed them to do that. You see, that is where it becomes problematic. I don't know whether it is a failure of the community alerting system, a failure of our security operatives, or a failure of leadership generally. Where do you think we should be apportioning blame? Or even if not apportioning blame, where do you think we should be strengthening to prevent some of these instances? Because maybe if the Chinese hadn't done this, it wouldn't have enticed these 5 people who have now lost their lives.
Yes, you are right when you ask that question. But what I have always said is that the environment, the land belongs to the Ghanaian people. And it is for us and for the future. So if even people think that they have economic right to mine, must you destroy the environment that can be used in future for farming and other activities? Certainly, it's not the way to go. So if we are to apportion blame, I think that it is more of one that all of us are part. You can't single out any state institution or an individual to blame. But I wouldn't understand why we would not endorse even Ghanaians doing such illegal things. And then a foreigner has the right to do so. That certainly is a no. And so if you am to state my opinion clearly, I would want to say that we need to get our act right. Government alone cannot fight Galamsey. It will take the commitment of communities and leaders in all spheres of our national life to support this fight against Galamsey. Because when we fail, it is not the government that is failing. I think it is the nation. The nation, because when people don't volunteer information, we cannot be everywhere. And because people think that they have a right to mine the natural resources of this country, they will do anything. But I think we must fight it. So I wouldn't want to apportion blame to any state institution or government. But I think that the nation must get it right because it's about the future of this country.
Before I bring in security analyst Adib Sani, I'd just like to find out from you, Mr. Minister. So I'm looking at the timelines here, and it is fraught with a number of these incidents. You look at the 9th of September 2021, 3 illegal miners died in the eastern region, Achim, Apinamang to be specific. Then you look at the Dompoase incident, 1st of August 2022. Then you look at another incident. I mean, they just keep happening. This was in November 2021. 10 people died in Wasa, Esikuma. And now the latest incident. In the northeast region, this wouldn't be the first. So I'd like to find out from you, what next? This specific area of land, what are we going to do with it? Is there going to be land reclamation? What is going to be done to prevent people from even coming there, having access, and maybe transforming the land so that it can be used for other purposes? What's the plan?
The future, the way to go from where I sit is that, one, the youth in the area, if they want to do mining, then what I told you earlier is that they should come and let us sit. We judge all, and we will support them to obtain mining licenses so that they can do legitimate exercise. That is number one. Number two.
So just to clarify, is this going to be community mining? You say you support them to get mining licenses. Community mining.
Community mining.
Okay.
Where the youth of the area will be engaged in doing the community mining. That is what I am pushing. I'm not pushing for commercial scale mining for now, because the people also want to have a share of the national cake. Now, we come to the gaping hole that I talked about. My brother, with all due respect, I cannot imagine where we will get sand to go and fill that gaping hole. It will be maybe a national exercise, because that damage I'm talking about, I'm sure my brother Ilyasu would have been there. He has seen it. It is not something that the assembly with its resources can reclaim. It's so disturbing that these people, after scooping out the sand to go and get their gold, dumped it somewhere, not even closer to the mine pit, so that pushing it back becomes that easy. You will need conscious effort. So much money has to be spent to reclaim that land. But if indeed we want to save lives, it is something that we will need to look at to see if it is possible to reclaim that piece of land. Otherwise, we will run the danger of having future occurrences similar to what happened.
We're grateful, sir, that you've been able to take the time to join us. Maybe a final bit before you leave us. So is that going to be a RegSec meeting on the back of this? You mentioned that you have spoken to the DCE. Is that going to be a RegSec meeting?
By tomorrow, there will be a RegSec meeting. And when we meet, I've asked DeİSEC in Nangrumah to also meet. Then we will meet the two groups, RegSec, DeİSEC. We will meet as we have done previously to see what new ideas we bring on board to try to address this. This time around, maybe the approach might be a bit stringent, because we will need to let people understand that if even they have rights to their livelihood, they also have a responsibility to make sure that, one, we protect the environment and also save their lives. So I think that this is something that we are not taking lightly. And in the course of the week, between now and Saturday, you may probably want to get back to see what we are doing.
Mr. Zachary, thank you so much for doing us the honors and speaking to us this morning. Yidana Zachary is the Northeast Regional Minister. My key takeaways, he says that he's going to push for community mining so that these young ones in the area who want to have a piece of the national cake can actually do so, but legally. He also speaks about the fact that the place is too huge for land reclamation. It would take likely a national exercise, and they cannot do it with their own resources. And that, look, this is a fight that all of us must be involved in. And that this week, they're going to have a Regional Security Council meeting on the back of that. Before I go to Adib Sani, Ilyasu, I know you've been holding on for long, so if there's any tidbit you'd like to add on the back of what the minister has said, you can do that. If not, I'll take leave of you. All right. So Ilyasu has already taken leave of us. Let me bring in Adib Sani, security analyst. Adib, so you've followed the issue, and I made mention of the fact that time without number, we've had this kind of scenario in different parts of the country. 10 people killed here, 5 people there, 3 people there, and it keeps going on and on and on. Especially as the fight against Galamsey has come forcefully into the picture in recent times. How do you feel about all of this?
First of all, let me say good morning to you, your production team, and your viewers. It is an unfortunate incident. It's not new, because in the past, a lot of research has been conducted into these mining sites all across the country, and especially in the north. A lot of these pits are dark, and the stopes are poorly supported. And as a result, it is becoming a serious health risk to those involved. There are instances where there's low ventilation, oars are used, and they breathe in these dangerous chemicals, and in the end, it has serious effects on their lungs, and other vital organs. So it is not new, I must say. It is something we've spoken about over the period. Politicians love to talk about it. Unfortunately, I'm yet to see any concrete step taken to mitigate the situation there. And it is further compounded by the presence of foreign nationals who come there to engage in mostly illegal mining. And they have zero regard because there's no regulation. They are illegal. They're not supposed to be there. So there's zero regard for safety. And it almost looks like nobody is doing anything about it. We're just patiently waiting for the next batch of individuals to be killed. We talk about it, it ends there, and we wait again for. So it's become more like a cycle, and nobody seems to be doing much about it. We rather, keep talking about the same issues over and over again.
Just hold for me, Adib. I'll also bring in now Superintendent Retired Peter Lanshin Tobu, Member of Parliament for Wa West and a Member of Parliament's Defence and Interior Committee. Supo, thank you very much for making the time to join us this morning.
How are you?
I'm very well. I hope you are too.
I'm doing great.
Great. Even as we talk about the Galamsey menace, we also have that situation in Wa where another person has lost his life, a watchman, so to speak, a security officer. This would be the 6th in a row that we have had. What are your concerns about the situation? And in terms of policing, pursuing the perpetrators, what is going on? What do you see?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. Good morning to our cherished listeners. Security, they say, is a collective responsibility. I think if you go to the Upper West region, all of us are worried. Very worried because it is gradually affecting our night life. That people who opted to go as night security men are being targeted and killed in cold blood. I think it's a worry that every Ghanaian should get interested in. And I am particularly disturbed because that is my region. The police in the past were able to bring robbery down to a level that life became very normal. And I think that I applaud the police for that. Whether it is highway robbery or community robbery, whatever it is, residential robbery, whatever it is, the police have done a very good job in the Upper West region. And I applaud DCOP Peter Ndakuru and his team. This is another emerging trend of crime that is targeting people who are working in the night, very particularly night watchmen. And I think that the police, yesterday I saw a release from the regional commander signed by himself, showing the level of seriousness is attached to this matter. But I want to plead that apart from what the police want to do, the police should be able to extend their tentacles to get communities involved. Let's get the work community involved. Let's get everybody to appreciate the fact that in this collectivity as we project, we can't do it alone. This is something that is new. And why we should be able to investigate to find out who are these people behind? What is actually behind it? Is it just mere murder? Is it the introduction of something that can possibly end up as a very dangerous thing to our security as a country or as a region? There are a lot of analysis that needs to be done. And at least every single soul in this country irrespective of where you live. If you are killed in cold blood, I think that people should be concerned, because the insecurity in the Upper West can be a threat to the peace and security of Ghana as a whole, and all of us are concerned.
Why do you feel there's an uptick in this trend? Because, like I mentioned, this is not the first that we're hearing. There seems to be a trend. And our correspondent, Rafiq Salam from WA, made mention of the fact that, at least 4 of them could be confirmed to be ritual killings. So why this trend?
Thank you very much. In investigative terms, before you can get a trend, you need to be able to connect one case to the other and call it a trend. And before you do that, there are very simple questions we ask. We call them the 5 Ws and 1 H. What happened? When did it happen? Where did it happen? When did it happen? Why did it happen? Who is involved? And finally, how? If you're able to answer the how and connect one case to the other, you will get to realize that it is actually a trend, or probably these are ad hoc cases that coincidentally you can see as a trend. So you need a lot of modus operandi analysis to be able to conclude that it's a trend. But whatever it is, what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter whether it's a trend or not. A single human being who is killed and it's a criminal matter should be treated with all the seriousness that we have as a state. Everybody in this country, including the police, should rise up to say, no, you can't just kill and go scot-free. Whatever it takes for us to investigate and get to the bottom of this matter, all of us should support the police to do that, because probably a single arrest can unravel the mystery behind it, whether it's contract killing, whether it's ritual killing, whether it's a madman who is probably just going around killing people. Nobody can say until we arrest one person, supported by scientific data from the crime scene, and we're able to make conclusive statements. So it's a whole game that we need to look at, and we need to support the police to be able to do a better job.
We need to support the police. How would you say ordinary, folk in WA can support the police in this instance?
Recently, we launched something by National Security. We say, see something, say something.
Right.
In criminal investigation, we tell you, it doesn't matter what you do as a human being. The moment you commit crime, some traces of yours will be left at the crime scene. And we need some science, we need some technology to be able to unravel the mystery right at the scene and be able to connect from the scene to human beings. And finally, we'll get some people who will be suspect. And the suspect, you investigate them, and gradually you can conclude that this can be an accused person, because there is enough evidence to connect you to the crime scene. And there is enough evidence to connect you from the crime scene to the deceased person. And that is how we go about. So all of us as a people should be open-hearted. And the police should be very proactive enough to tell the people that, listen, if you see something, don't be afraid. Come and say it. Probably one clue from an ordinary civilian who has no knowledge in security can lead to unraveling the mystery behind this series of deaths in WA. And I think that all of us should get involved.
In terms of the security measures being put in place, we know there's been a ban on the use of motorbikes and tricycles starting today. Is that going to help, as has been envisaged, in combating the situation?
Well, I can't say that is absolutely going to help, but I think that it's a step in the right direction. Something is being done. Will that be appropriate enough? We can't say until we allow a week to pass. But the point is that I think there is so much we can do as a people. There is so much we can do as an institution. I'm talking about the Ghana Police Service. Because the police will not be in every shop. The police will not be in every home. The police will not be standing by every watchman everywhere. But the human beings that we have in WA, they are everywhere. The people who employ them know who they employ. All the people who employ the watchmen should be consulted and spoken to. All the watchmen who are working should be spoken to. Can we talk about the personal security of the watchman? What training does the watchman have? You found a 60-year-old man who is employed by somebody and paid probably 70 or 80 Ghana cedis a month. And you leave your home and go and sleep in front of somebody's shop. All you do is just lie down there. He has no clue as to what security measures he should put in place, even to protect himself. So the police should be up and doing to educate the watchmen as to how they can, first of all, think about their own personal security. And if there is a threat to their life, if there's a threat to the security of the area, they should have a way to connect to the police for immediate response. I'm sure that we'll be able to cut the response time to somewhere 15 minutes. That when somebody calls within the WA and its environment, within 15 minutes, the police should be there. I'm sure we'll be able to arrest one of these things and we can nip this in the bud. So we can't say absolutely that the immediate measures put in place is convincing enough. I think that the police will have to be doing more. And we need to support them to do better.
All right. The final point I'd like to run by you. Very final point. In terms of what else can be done, I am thinking here, if some of them, at least 4 out of these 6, have been linked to ritual murders, do you think we also ought to be exploring, I don't know whether the police is doing this, maybe fetish priests or other people in the community or in that part of the region who just might be causing people to go and do this? Because if there's a trend, it may even be that it is one shrine somewhere where someone is telling people that bring me body parts from, night watchmen and all of that, and I'll do X, Y, Z for you. Is that an angle worth pursuing?
Thank you very much. When I was in the police service, and I used to teach senior command, there is something I do for them. We call it stakeholder analysis. And if you're a commander for 6 good months, and you've not conducted stakeholder analysis and have a database of people who matter, I think that then probably you are not in charge. What you do as a commander is to conduct stakeholder analysis immediately you take over and know who is your informant. You should be able to know who are influential people in society that when something happens, you can consult them for information and they'll give you. If there's a demonstration, there is one person you can call and the person comes to speak and everybody understands and they calm down. In conducting stakeholder analysis, you realize that there are some people who are so powerful but they don't really have interest in what you are doing. There are some people who are so powerful and they're interested in every step that you take. There are some people that are so interested in everything that you do, but they don't have power. So you do all these things and categorize them. You have a database of all these people. And as you are saying, I'm sure by now the regional commanders should have people who are into fetish business, people that people go to consult. Armed robbers go to consult to fortify themselves. Armed robbers go there when they are shot for them to take out bullets. The regional commanders should have a database of all these kinds of people. That on matters like this, if you suspect that it's ritual murder, there are people you should be speaking to. And I think they can provide you information behind the scene to help you unravel the mystery. It's a whole game, and I think that it's not everything that sometimes we put on air. Let's hope that the police will be up and doing, and all of us behind the scene, if they need it and they call on us, we will support them.
Lashin Tobu, we're very grateful, Supo, that you took the time to join us.
Have a nice day.
He's Member of Parliament for Wa West, also a member of the Defence and Interior Committee of Parliament there, sharing his thoughts. Let me come back to my guests. We have Adib Sani. We also have Mumuni Mukhtar of the WACSI, the West Africa Center for Counter-Extremism. He's a security analyst as well. Mukhtar, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning. Good morning to you, and good morning to our listeners.
Right.
Good morning to my brother, Adib, and the Honorable MP, Honorable Tobu.
Right. Honorable Tobu has actually taken leave of us now. But so it's a two-pronged issue we're looking at. Galamsey on the one hand, and then this situation in the Upper West region, Wa to be specific, where a 6th person has lost his life, a night watchman. Since we started off on that trajectory, let me just go there for you. This development seems to be happening, and our security apparatus has not found a way around it. What is your reading of that situation in Wa?
Well, as we're all learning, of course, this is only now coming to national attention, but this is not new. You would hear a lot of incidences of kidnapping. Kidnapping, for instance, is becoming increasingly very, very pervasive in many parts of the northern sector of Ghana, including the Upper West region, especially in the Savannah region that I've spent some significant amount of time sometime this year. There are a lot of incidences of kidnapping that are not reported nationally. And this is a very, very worrying situation. And for us, things like that, we try to connect it to other big incidents of insecurity or security threats, what it implies for other things relating to, say, violent extremism or terrorism financing, and things like that. We are seeing that there's a significant feature of foreign actors in places, in gold mining sites, especially in that part of the country. There's a very notorious place around Dollar Power where we have involvement of other foreign nationals in the mining areas. And it is believed some of these things are intended at financing extremist or terrorist activities through the gold mining activities and also kidnapping for ransom. So these things are serious security things or threats that have been going on for some time now. What we're seeing in WA in terms of the kidnapping and killing of night watchmen, trends or threats that we are, currently looking in terms of ability to establish what is a trend and what the motivations are. We're not sure yet what it is, but it's a reality that is happening. If you go in the eastern part of Savannah region, we are also recording such incidences of kidnapping activities going on. So it's a big worry, and it's a worry for all of us. The important thing we need to look at is what are the motivations for these things? Of course, generally, money is often a big motivation. Ritualistic activities or ritual purposes are often part of it. But we're yet to uncover the reality of the motivations for these particular incidences that are going on in WA. We know that there's increasing desperation, amongst young people, young unemployed or jobless people seeking to be popular, to be rich, and to be famous, get involved in these things. And so those are all part of things we need to look at in terms of investigating this. I think that the Ghana Police Service, of course, we can commend them for the many measures they are taking in dealing with these things. They could be overwhelmed sometimes, but we need to be able to find very innovative ways and practical ways dealing with these new trends that we are looking at, new security threats. Because for a fact, the idea or reality of kidnapping is a new thing, it's a new reality within our security mix. 4 or 5 years ago, if you went online to search for information relating to kidnapping, you would find very, very scanty information. But today, it's becoming a regular occurrence. It tells you that our security architecture has to be retooled. So, for instance, we should be having specialists or investigators specializing in ritual murders. So when ritual activities happen, or when security threats emerge that have or seem to have linkage with ritual activities, we would have these experts focus on that. We should have had experts or specialists specializing in Galamsey investigations. This way, it helps them hone their skills and their capacities in that direction. It helps us achieve results better if we are able to do these kinds of things. Otherwise, we would be significantly overwhelmed very soon, and all of us, we have to pay for that.
WA happens to be a very big place, and we know it's had its own problems in the past in terms of security. With this rearing its ugly head, what do you think it means for the security situation up north? And I say this because we know what is happening in the likes of Boku and other places. It appears there are pockets of different security problems that have to be dealt with. How much of a concern is it that this is also rearing its ugly head, Mumuni? Very briefly on that, so I go to Adibon saying.
Yes, it's a big problem. It's a big worry. But I also think significantly the police service has capacity to deal with it. As we heard Honorable Togo talk extensively about the work of the security in that area. A few years ago, WA was a very notorious space for criminal activities, especially during the night and some of the highways around the Upper West region. Today, it has significantly improved through the innovative and practical measures taken by the leadership of the police service in that area. If you look at even the northeastern part of Ghana, there were parts of it that were very, very dangerous. But the police increased attention and focus on those parts, significantly changed the threats in that area. So I think that we need to have sustained, work, sustained focus in dealing with crimes in these areas. But more importantly, we have to be able to mobilize local community support and create activities that elicit goodwill and support and trust from the local community so they can come forward willingly to volunteer information to help us track down criminals who live within us, criminals we have information about, to ensure that we deal with this and we deal with this effectively.
Let me come to Adib. So you've heard your colleague on the other end, Mumuni Mukhtar. You've heard Superintendent retired Lanshini Tobu, Member of Parliament for Wa West as well. What is your reading of the situation? And in terms of the community engagement, that local community support that Mumuni Mukhtar speaks of, do you feel we've done enough to get that? Because these people, these criminals, they live in these communities, they operate in these communities. Someone obviously is seeing something, but saying nothing. How do we get around that conundrum?
I mean, to piggyback on a number of points my brother Mukhtar raised, I am particularly concerned about the ability of terrorist groups, particularly Jenim, taking advantage of the unregulated nature of, for example, the mining sites to serve it, to use it as a source of funding. So terrorist financing, of course, comes in huge in this whole, scheme of affairs. I think also generally that there's the need for more education, and the education hasn't been enough. And in criminology, there's what we call rational choice theory. Before someone perpetrates a crime, it is premised that he's human and has the ability to juxtapose the risk and the reward factors before perpetrating the crime. So if he feels that if he commits this crime, the probability of him getting caught is low, he will be motivated to committing the crime in the first place. But if he feels that when I perpetrate this crime, now great investigations are conducted and I'll be caught, the person would invariably be disincentivized from even perpetrating the crime in the first place. So we need to look at the issue of law enforcement. To what extent, what is the ratio of getting someone prosecuted when he perpetrates a crime and not getting him prosecuted? So we work towards improving that. Investigation is also extremely key. We are dealing with quite a number of sizable communities, and I don't think it should be laborious enough to get to the bottom of some of these kidnappings and murders that have happened over the period. And I must say, security, like Honorable put it, is a shared responsibility. If we are able to harness our relationship, in this sense, meaning the security services, and their community members, on the other hand, get them involved, I'm pretty sure they will be able to give more information. And like you also rightly mentioned, these individuals live in our communities. They are our siblings, they are our mothers, they are our fathers. There's absolutely no way someone can be up to mischief without another person noticing something. But the question is, what is the motivation behind me taking the bold step to walk to a police station to report? I have spoken with people from that area, and they tell me that, look, Adib, here everybody knows everybody. If you make a mistake and report to the police and your identity is not protected, the next minute the whole community would know that you are the mole or you are the rat, and they might come after you. So witness protection also comes into this affair, okay? To what extent do we protect the identity of witnesses? To what extent do we motivate people to come forth with information that would help the police make sense of the myriad of cases before them? And I also think largely what is happening is as a result of the influx of foreigners, a lot of whom come into the area using irregular means. We don't know of their existence, and they are able to, perpetrate these crimes. So I think largely there's a lot of work to be done in that regard. That is why my organization, the Center for Human Security and Peace Building, has taken up that initiative. We'll be conducting a number of sensitization workshops for organizations in Accra. Hopefully, we would expand to other parts of the country. So we get as many as Ghanaians as possible involved and understanding what the security implications of their everyday actions are, and get them to understand what they can do to support the work of the police. So in the end, we ensure protection for ourselves, for our families, for our communities, and the country in general.
It's interesting that point you make about foreign elements as well, because for all we know, it could even be people who are not necessarily within that community, but who come into that community, perpetrate crime, and maybe get themselves out of the community. People who may not even be Ghanaian. So it could be so many things at play. But gentlemen, thank you for addressing that issue. I want us, before you go, to look at the initial issue we started with. Because Supo came in, I took a detour on that conversation. It has to do with the Northeast region. You heard from the sector minister, Yidane Zakari, and he talks about how big a problem it is. Galamsey is going on, and no one, can pretend it is not. First of all, would you say, Adib, I'll still start with you, would you say that we've done enough in the last few years to curb this menace? And on the back of more and more deaths of our own nationals when it comes to unapproved sites and all of that, what is your reading of the situation?
Well, Ben, on the face value, we seem to be doing a lot. Unfortunately, on the ground, we seem to be doing nothing. Because the question I always ask myself as a project manager is, in the midst of all of the investments, of all of the operations, the talk about Galamsey fights and all that, to what extent has it translated on the ground? Is illegal mining still happening? Are water bodies still destroyed? The forest cover, is it still destroyed? Are cocoa farms still destroyed? And the answer to all that is yes. Well, the president is well-intentioned. He wants the best for the country. It was a great step in the right direction to introduce those measures to fight Galamsey, even including the banning of excavators, which some human rights experts, found, to be illegal. But we still have these individuals at the mining sites. And Akakpo, of all of the, for example, Chinese, we've arrested over the period in the hundreds. We see the media. Joy, a number of times I've seen you show Chinese nationals arrested and paraded before the media, almost like a weekly ritual. But let's ask ourselves, of all of the hundreds, if not thousands of Chinese that have been arrested, how many are in our prison system? According to Manasseh Azure, who wrote to the Ghana Prisons Service through the RTI, only 2. And the 2, we are even unable to tell whether it is Galamsey related. So it is likely that we have these same individuals recycled back to the Galamsey sites even after their arrest. And I can say confidently, without mincing words, that if you are a Chinese citizen and engaged in Galamsey, the probability of you getting freed, even after you are arrested, is 99%. And that is one of the biggest stumbling blocks so far as fighting Galamsey is concerned. Law enforcement is a problem. And we still have certain individuals with societal clout engaged in it. So I must say, unfortunately, we haven't really succeeded in our fight against Galamsey. And my fear also is the fact that the Galamsey happening in the northern part of the country might be a great resource to terrorist groups. Because in the past, there's been arrest of some individuals and goods impounded in Ouagadougou containing fertilizer and dynamite that are from Ghana and was supposed to be meant for the mining sites. So the likelihood that dynamite that is legitimately supposed to be used by the mining sites could be diverted into terrorist hands is very high because of the unregulated nature of the mining sector, especially in the north. Okay, terrorists might also, like I indicated earlier, use it as a big source of income, like Mukhtar even also indicated. Okay, because we can see, and I've discussed this issue with Ilyas not too long ago, the possibility of terrorists coming in and engaging in mining, making money, and using it to fund their terrorist activities.
Right. Very interesting points you make there. Let me come to Mumuni Mukhtar. And, even as we discourse on this situation and the way forward, and even as I take your reading, I just see this on our Facebook platform, Joy News on Facebook, and it talks about a staff of the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry being arrested for extorting money from illegal miners and other mining-related activities in excess of 200,000 Ghana cedis. So we have quite a problem on our hands, don't we? Because corruption-wise, there are those elements who feed into it, and so the problem still persists. Hello, Mukhtar?
Is it meant for me or Mukhtar? Okay.
Mukhtar. It's meant for Mukhtar.
Well, I think to answer your initial question, yes, it appears, as my brother's Adib submission says, it seems that we are doing a lot. And yet, in reality, we're doing so small in comparison to the problem that is before us. I think that we have been quite abysmal in terms of our ability to deal with the problem of Galamsey. We are seeing significant situation of complicity of individuals who are meant to solve the problem being part of the problem. Within the local community, the social structures, leadership, local leadership, up to officialdom, we seem to have normalized Galamsey operations whilst we project an image of a team or a group of people looking to fight Galamsey. If you look at the color of the water bodies today, and if you look at the vegetative cover of where Galamsey operations are going on, it should worry you. It should worry you that we are actually digging our own grave and pretending to be fighting a problem. This is at the heart. This is a serious issue that all of us have to take seriously. It should be considered as a national security matter that employs everyone, every effort to ensure that we solve the problem of Galamsey. We are not seeing that. We are seeing episodic responses to the problem of Galamsey, organizing and mobilizing when there's media highlight on the issue. And when the media highlight moves away, we go back to normal. Now we are seeing, as my brother Sani talked about, the northern part of the country. This is a largely unregulated, almost ungoverned parts of the country where state presence is very limited, and it allows young people and desperate people to mine Galamsey with measures they only deem fit. In the mining sector, the single biggest factor is safety, health and safety. It is the primary and single biggest factor in consideration in engaging in mining activities. And yet, we do not see emphasis on this. And so I think that we have to move beyond these kinds of things that we are doing, episodic responses to the problem, and engaging in media, just talking about the problem. We need to see, some action, real action. And we need to be able to monitor the color of our water bodies, the recovery of the vegetation, and livelihoods in this part of the country. Otherwise, in the next 5 to 10 years, all of us will be regretting and will have to pay for it. Ben, if you look at the statistics around, climate change, we are losing in terms of rate faster than most countries in the world in terms of the loss of our vegetative cover and the forest cover of our country. And if you're not making it a national security issue, then I don't know what else we should be talking about when it comes to security issues to this country in the future.
Gentlemen, if you can give me less than a minute on this. Our time is up, but just give me less than a minute on this. On the Aisha Huang issue, yes, we're talking about these 5 miners, illegal miners, so to speak, who have lost their lives. But there's the broader picture. I mentioned the bit about a staff of the Lands Commission, or the Ministry for Lands and Natural Resources. Let me just get it clear. So a staff of the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry. But I want to take a quick look at what Information Minister Nangrumah has been telling us on the back of the Aisha Huang development. She was supposed to have made it to China. We're told she didn't make it to China. Maybe because we don't have the details. There was no escort. But the Information Minister says, quoting him, as per what is here, the fact is she was repatriated from the Ghanaian jurisdiction. She found herself back in the Ghanaian jurisdiction. She found herself back in the Ghanaian jurisdiction. The security agencies did not go to bed. They arrested her and she is in custody. She has not been granted bail. I think all of our national attention must go strongly to focus on that and to see that through and to get results for the people of Ghana. This is what he says. Are you optimistic? Is it any comfort for you when he says this? She found herself back in the country. The question is, how did she do that? So what are your quick reactions? I'll start with you, Mumuni, and then wrap with Adib. Very quickly.
I think communications around this in the last couple of days has been very, very messy. And it's been very messy to the extent that it seems to provide a reflection of the level of seriousness our government took this matter when it first happened, in, I think, 2019, 2020. It tells you that we did not treat it as a serious matter. It is clear that Aisha Huang was never officially deported from this country and that there were no deportation documentation, no paperwork relating to her deportation from Ghana.
But Mukhtar, that is very different from what we've been told. What details we have about the flight leaving Ethiopia Airlines, the time of the flight, and in fact the fact that at least she made it to Addis Ababa and en route China. It's very different from what you're telling us.
Well, if you talk to people even within official sources, they will tell you it was largely a political arrangement that allowed her to get back or to leave this country. There was no paperwork relating to deportation. If you notice, you observe even our own nationals who were found or who are found to have committed crimes in the U.S. If they are found guilty and due for deportation, they have immigration officials or security officials accompany them. Sometimes beyond that, the individual is chained in the aeroplane and get here safely with their counterparts signing documentation to confirm receipt of the citizen, and they get back to their country. Why did we not have that here, or some semblance of that happen in this case? So clearly, officially, there was no deportation, and there was no any kind of indictment on her as an individual. Immigration officials would have had information, data on her. Their counterparts over there would have had information on her. As we speak, there's no evidence that that happened. And for me, it is a reflection of how we have been dealing with the problem of Galamsey in our country. We have to face things squarely. We have to speak and confront it as it is. We failed in dealing with the matter in the case of Aisha Huang. How do we reclaim the confidence and trust of all actors and stakeholders to ensure that we have a fresh start to dealing with the matter? And I think that the Attorney General has made promises in terms of how he would handle the case this time. We hope that he would actually stay the course and ensure that we get good results out of this case.
Mumuni, thank you. In fact, Mukhtar, thank you so much for joining the conversation. He's a security analyst. Of course, he's also with the West Africa Center for Counter-Extremism. Let me bring in Adib Sani. Your take on that same matter, sir.
Ben, I've always known from day one that there was no seriousness whatsoever on the part of government to ensure that she's held to account. Indeed, the senior minister then couldn't have gotten it any better. What benefit would it bring to Ghanaians? So that sealed the deal for me. I mean, I knew instantly that there's no commitment. She's not a diplomat. So under normal circumstances, why didn't she go through our legal system? Because within the scheme of things, you can only have that happen when China is interested in the individual. Even if she is extradited or repatriated back to China, it doesn't mean she walks free. Based on certain principles agreed under international law, she's supposed to be held accountable. In China, if she serves 2-year jail term out of 10 years, and she's repatriated. She's supposed to serve the remaining 8. That is how things are done. And that is exactly what I spoke about the fact that these same individuals are being recycled into the system. And Ben, before I go, let me state categorically that we need to take a look at our laws and make it treasonable for anyone to be engaged in Galamsey. I know people might, have their eyebrows raised. But if you are found to be engaged or to be complicit in any activity that destroys the state, that destroys Ghana, you are an enemy of the state. And we need to take that into consideration, because the cocoa you see is our national pride. So if certain people with local connivance come into the country and destroy our cocoa, destroy our water bodies to the extent that the Ivorians are complaining, your dirty water is making our waters dirty because of your inability to regulate mining in your country. It is affecting us. Ivory Coast, that just came out of a civil war in 2010, 2011. So I insist that we need to take a closer look at our laws and make it treasonable for anyone to be engaged in it, because the person is destroying the state of Ghana.
Adib, thank you so much for joining the conversation as well. Adib Sani, a security analyst, and a very strong point he makes at the end, that our laws should make this treasonable, so that if you are caught, well, then you know the consequences. You're an enemy of the state. We have a lot more coming your way as we look at the president's tour of the Volta region. We'll be engaging the regional minister shortly on that. But right before we take a break and bring you all of that, your favorite meals like gobe and kenke will become even more expensive if we do not help farmers buy the fertilizer they need before the planting season closes at the end of this month, September. Farmerline is supporting farmers by making affordable fertilizers available to them through a discount program. We are inviting you to also support us by donating 10 Ghana cedis or more to raise 1 million cedis to reach over 25,000 farmers this season. All you have to do, simply dial *887*4444# to donate. Your donations will make a big contribution to food security in Ghana. Well, we'll take a bit of a breather. And when we return, we'll be bringing you, before that conversation on the Volta region, we'll bring you AM Business, courtesy of EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank. And guess what we're bringing you? Online Drivers Union of Ghana says the rising cost of fuel is affecting their business. We bring you James Eshan's report.